Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Unity Online, which is where we seem to be doing everything these days. I am so grateful to welcome you. I am Reverend Marla Mason. I am your minister. I am your champion. I am someone who just loves you so deeply. And I'm realizing that more and more every day and especially every Sunday, that we don't get to be together in physical community. I'm realizing just how deeply I love you all. And I'm so grateful that we have this mechanism that allows us to come together in spiritual community in new ways. We are about waking up. Unity at Bellevue is a place where people show up to wake up. It is where we come to know the spiritual truth that God is good, that all is well, that something wonderful is happening no matter where we are or where we go, and that we are instruments of the divine making itself known here on planet Earth. Unity is a zone of love, it's a zone of inclusion, it's a zone of joy, and it's a zone of gratitude. I want to open by telling you I have paid new attention in the last couple of weeks to my gratitude practice. Really anchoring in gratitude at least some portion of every single day. And I encourage you to do the same. Things are very, very different for most of us right now, and it can be easy to get caught up in circumstances and events. And I am letting you know that renewing my commitment to my gratitude practice has really helped me stay anchored in spiritual truth as we move through this time. And so, welcome to Unity. Here's what's going to happen today. We have some music with Becca Palm. We have an amazing guest speaker today, Dr. Holmes Redding. I am so grateful to welcome her to our community. I am going to go ahead and read her bio right now, and then I just want to say a couple of words. So let me just let the rest of everybody in here. All right, perfect. So Dr. Holmes Redding. She goes where she is invited, locally and nationally, to share what she's been learning since the convergence of Islam with her Christian belief and practice in 2006. A teacher, speaker, writer, singer, and spiritual guide, Anne was an Episcopal priest for 25 years. She currently teaches at University of Puget Sound and leads Friday Islamic prayer at the Interfaith Community Sanctuary in Seattle. With Jamal Rahman and Kathleen Elias, she is the co-author of Out of Darkness into Light, Spiritual Guidance in the Quran with Reflections from Jewish and Christian Sources. So I was hoping to have Imam Jamal be our guest speaker today, and when I reached out to him over 2 months ago now, he was unable to do it. And I wrote back to him and I said, do you have someone that you would recommend? And his response to me was Sister Anne. And the moment I read those words in his email, Sister Anne, I just knew that she was just right for us, that she brings a message of love, of inclusion, of joy, of grace. And so I am grateful to welcome her into our virtual community this morning. Everybody give Dr. Anne a little bit of love. Welcome, welcome. So you'll be hearing from her in a little bit. Becca, I think you've got some music to help us open here. And as soon as Becca's done, we will pray in and have our affirmation.
Good morning, everyone. I love you. I miss you. There's one power invisible. You see it everywhere and every day. There's one power indescribable. You speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. It's as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call Call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings on heaven's doors. Whatever name you give it, it's one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, have different clothing, different colors, different names. But difference only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's doors. It's Mohammed, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your sign, it's the universe, it's simple, Mother Earth or Mother Time. Whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of love in you and me. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. The birthright of all nations. The boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby. The serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon for love that's most deep. It's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
And so let us turn within and recognize that we are embodiments of that power of love. We recognize that there is no separation, no division, only one life. And we anchor our awareness, we anchor in the truth of the one life right where we are, living us, breathing us, moving us. Every moment of every day, we live and have our being in the mind and in the heart of God. And we just allow ourselves to be lifted in the conscious awareness of this truth right here and right now. And we embody this truth, and we recognize that although we may appear to be scattered about the planet, that life is right where we are, and we are unified in that life. We have our being in it. And so there is no separation and no division. There is only one thing happening, and it is happening right where we are. And so I give thanks for our expanding awareness of this truth, and I give thanks for the opportunity to come together in spiritual community this morning to deepen and grow, to open our hearts more fully to the truth of who and whose we are. I give thanks for the music, for the message, for the people. I give thanks for everything that happens this day, knowing that God means all things for good and very, very good. And so I open this service with a grateful heart and simply allow it to unfold according to the glory of God. And so it is. Amen. All right, everybody, let's have a little affirmation. What is the spiritual truth? Please join me, as soon as I fix my screen, in declaring the spiritual truth for you and for us. I'm going to read this. I invite you to read it aloud with me with conviction. I am open to powerful, positive changes in my life, claiming the highest expression of who I am. I release that which no longer serves, and I claim my greatness now. And so it is. Beautiful. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Becca has a little more music for us this morning.
If I ask for understanding, would you give me wisdom, or would you give me peace? If I ask for a vision, would you show the forest, or would you show the trees? You invite me to surrender and promise to supply. When I am in the desert, I must rely. If I ask for directions, would you show me landmarks, or would you drive? If I'm caught in indecision, would you give me insight, or would you give me time? You invite me to surrender and promise to supply. When I am in the desert, I must rely. If I ask for an answer, would you speak it to me loudly, or wait until I'm listening and then whisper through the breeze? If I ask for perspective, would you take me to a mountain, or would you show me all I need to see when I am on my knees? You invite me to surrender, and you promise to supply. When I am in the desert, I rely. Sweet surrender.
I'm always so appreciative when I am invited to speak sight unseen, as I've been today. There are many people, self-respecting spiritual folks in the Pacific Northwest, who think, with some justification, I might add, that I am a person with at least two religions too many. And they're the two religions that many people are the most suspicious of, and that's Islam and Christianity. So I want to assure you at the outset that I took the message I received, by my calculations, 14 years, 3 weeks, and 4 days ago, a message to assume the posture of complete surrender. So that's why your song, Becca, was so appropriate for me.
Come on.
I assume this posture of complete surrender to sacred reality, which is what a Muslim is, a person who is surrendered to sacred reality.
No.
And I took that invitation personally, not as a group. It's a personal prescription for my own spiritual therapy. And it's not one that I'm passing around. One way of putting it is that some people see fine without glasses. Some folks need single lenses, and I apparently need bifocals in order to be able to see the path that I am to walk. since becoming a Muslim, I've learned even more about this notion, this beautiful notion of spiritual sovereignty, that each one of us is entrusted with the stewardship of our own sacred territory, our own spiritual self. And I am the sovereign of Anland, and I hold that position as part of the trust the Holy One has placed in every human being. I have enough to handle here at home in Anland to leave me any time for trying to invade other people's territories, even if I were so inclined. So I'm especially thankful for the invitations I get, and this particular invitation that I received from Reverend Marla to be here. And I'm thankful to you all for receiving me so that I can share what I see from this vantage point of Anland in this time as I, along with my Muslim siblings, await the arrival of Ramadan.
Play audio from my Kindle.
Who is due later this week, 11 days into the Easter season.
Alexa, stop.
Middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to begin with a story that my mother used to tell. It's of a visit to our house when my sisters and I were very young. In those days, because my father worked long hours in a neighboring state, my mother, who was not a country girl, I must say at the beginning of this, found herself often at home alone with 3 little girls in an old farmhouse in southeastern Pennsylvania. My sisters and I, at this time, were all under the age of 6. And on this particular day, we had had ear infections for about a week. When my mother would tell this story, she used words like mayhem and misery. Putting it mildly, she was at her wit's end when there was a knock at the door. And at the door was our cousin Catherine. This was a complete surprise because cousin Catherine lived in Boston and had a very full life as an educator and a family of her own. But she turned up just at that moment, and she somehow was called there. I will never know exactly how she was called, but she rolled up her sleeves, she sat my mother down, gave her a cup of tea, took my sisters and me in hand, and according to my mother, she probably saved all of our lives that day with that visit. Fast forwarding decades later to my coming into Islam, I knew very little about the practices of Islam when I first came into the community that embraced me as a Muslim, even though I was still at the time an Episcopal priest. So I was kind of confused when Brother Benjamin Shabazz, our wise imam, began to talk about a coming house guest. It took me some time to realize that he was actually talking about Ramadan. And only after experiencing Ramadan for several years did I remember the story of the visit from cousin Catherine.
Can you hear it?
Watching Center for Spiritual Living in Bellingham.
Dr. Ann, I'm going to interrupt just briefly. I am looking desperately on my screen for who is not muted. And according to my screen, everyone but you is muted. And so there is some noise coming from the background. Will everyone please double check and make sure that you are muted? And let's just give our attention to Dr. Ann regardless, so that in case there's some kind of a technical glitch, she can fully have the floor as she shares with us. So thank you, and I'm going to give the floor back to you now. And if this continues, I'll just continue to try and figure out what's happening. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been hearing it as well, and we'll just take it in stride here. So as I was talking about Ramadan coming as a house guest, this whole idea of Ramadan as a house guest, and of course, Ramadan was different. The visit of Ramadan is different from the visit of from Cousin Catherine. Ramadan is highly anticipated every year and prepared for by Muslims around the world. But like the visit from our Cousin Catherine, Ramadan every year comes as a mercy, comes bearing gifts that help restore all those whom she visits to well-being. Every year, she seems to roll up her sleeves and get to work. No matter what state she finds us in, she goes to work on us from the inside out. From outside of Islam, it's hard to notice and remember that Ramadan is actually an inside job. From the outside, Ramadan can look like boot camp, like some kind of burden, because most of us focus so much on the rigors of the practice of fasting in Ramadan. And indeed, fasting is an important part at the heart of Ramadan. But because fasting is the primary practice of Ramadan, we can forget that Ramadan is essentially a celebratory season. And the reason for the season of Ramadan is to celebrate the gift of the giving of the Quran, which happened centuries ago in Arabia to the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. And the first downloading, so to speak, of the Quran, because the Quran was given to Muhammad over a period of 20 years in bits and pieces. It unfolded. It was an unfolding gift. But the first download happened during the month of Ramadan. And that is the basis. That's the foundational event that Ramadan celebrates. But of course, Ramadan celebrates so much more than that, because what Ramadan actually celebrates, that's underneath the gift of the Quran, Ramadan celebrates the idea that, and the reality, not just the idea, the reality that we human beings are created, we are built to receive the guidance and revelation of the divine. So the month of Ramadan is a month that Muslims spend celebrating our capacity, our calling to be recipients of the gift of divine revelation. And the practices of feasting, which is also part of Ramadan, and fasting and study, build that capacity to receive the gift and to embody the guidance. That's what Ramadan is about. As a season of celebration, Ramadan is much more like the Christian seasons of Advent and Christmas than it is like the seasons of Lent, the season of Lent where Christians, in my tradition, in Christianity, observe by fasting. The Quran to Muslims is as Jesus is to Christians. The Quran is a precious gift who teaches us how to be fully human in deep relationship with the creator of all. And through that relationship, in deep relationship with all the rest of creation. Ramadan is like Thanksgiving. We are thankful for this guidance. And we're thankful because humans, unlike other created beings, have this capacity to say yes voluntarily to God. We're the ones who need instruction. The rest of the creation, as it's understood in Islam, is naturally Muslim, naturally in surrender to God, and shows that surrender in all of the life that they bring to the rest of creation, to their kin. We humans are the ones who said, we will be in this relationship voluntarily. We get to agree, we get to say yes ourselves. And in so doing, God gives us the gift of guidance, what it means to say yes. What does it look like to be in this relationship? So, how does Ramadan help us in this? How does the house guest get to work? The first and most foundational practice of Ramadan is that practice of fasting. What fasting in Ramadan does, and this is what comes from my own experience of the practice. This will be my 15th Ramadan coming this week. And over these years, I've been learning the gifts, unwrapping those gifts year after year. And this is where I am today. I encourage you to talk to other Muslims about what fasting means to them, because every year I hear more and more about the gifts of this practice as well as the others. For me, fasting reminds me of what I really, really need and what I really, really desire in life. And what I really need and what I really desire is God. Every day from sunrise to sunset, as the hunger builds inside me, I've learned to remind myself to stop and say, there's God. God inside of me in the form of my hunger. What I'm really hungry for is that connection with God. I've also learned that when I view my hunger for food and my other hungers as well, my hunger to be loved by other people, my hunger to do the right thing, my hunger for justice, my hunger for anything, I understand that below that hunger, below that desire is God. That God is the one who has planted in us a desire for God. And that everything that we want that is not God either leads us to God directly or can stand in the way, can block us. So my hunger in Ramadan is dedicated also to helping me see what stands in the way of my desire for God. It helps me address my addictive patterns, my attachments that are to powers and forces and beings who are less than God, who lead me away from connection with Creator and creation. The practice of feasting in Ramadan, because every day we break our fast in Ramadan. And during the season of Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan, I probably am party more than I do the rest of the year combined. The emphasis in Ramadan, and especially in Islamic countries, and I haven't had the privilege of being in an Islamic country during Ramadan yet, but every night people gather to break the fast and to celebrate the community that began with the revelation of the Quran to Muhammad, the community of Islam. And so every year, Ramadan recreates that community, and people connect with folks that sometimes they haven't seen since the last Ramadan. This year, in the midst of COVID-19, we really will get to celebrate this connection by being online with people, and because we're forced to be online with people rather than be face to face. And we will eat in each other's company virtually and experience that desire for connection that is so much more poignant and intense because we cannot be physically together. We get to remember that we were called to this community by the one who gave the Quran, and that we might have a job to do together. The other practice that is so important in Ramadan is the reading of the Quran. Every day we read a portion of the Quran during Ramadan, so that by the end of Ramadan, we have read the entire Quran. And often at those daily fast-breaking meals, people will read aloud together the portion of the Quran. And so together be shaped by the teachings that bring us closer to the one who in the Quran is closer to us than our jugular vein, which is one of the ways in which Allah, God, is described. I like to joke with my community that every year during Ramadan, I discovered that someone put some extra verses into the Quran since last year, because they come to me so fresh and as such good news. For me, one of the verses last year that shaped my year to come, has shaped my year to come, was the verse that said, "What they used to do has become like rust upon their hearts." What they used to do has become like rust upon their hearts. Since taking in that verse, I have thought about living a life where I have consistent sessions of rust removal of my heart. I'm not sure why exactly that image spoke to me so clearly, but perhaps because removing rust is not an easy process. And often if you try to remove rust from some object, it leaves it a little more fragile than it was before. And yet, rust removal is such a necessary process for staying open to the revelation of God, staying open to the message of God, removing anything that gets in the way and that of receiving that message. This year, the house guest of Ramadan is joining up with another guest in my heart and home. And Ramadan will be hanging out with Jesus this year, who is still hanging around for Easter. For me, it's very fitting, this meeting up of Ramadan with Jesus, because Jesus is the one who brought me to Islam. Jesus is the one who kind of made the match, so to speak. And Jesus is very much at home in Islam as one of the inner circle of five important prophets of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad said of the Prophet Jesus that Jesus was the closest human being to him, the closest human ever to him, even though that over 600 years separated them in time. Because of the timing of Easter this year and the timing of Ramadan, they're overlapping in this way, and Ramadan is coming in the just after Easter has begun. To have them co-inhabiting my house this year reminds me that Jesus always comes to as part of this larger natural pattern that's woven into the fabric of the universe, of life springing from death. And his event, the Jesus event of crucifixion and resurrection, brings that pattern into stark relief in Holy Week and Easter. That event brings it home to us that we as humans are, again, we're built to be conscious participants in this work of transformation and liberation and healing from any death-dealing pattern that separates us from the love of God and from one another. So Jesus knows about this rhythm. And I picture Jesus hanging out and appreciating the practices of Ramadan that bring that rhythm of transformation and liberation into everyday life. Going back to that metaphor of Annland, Jesus's yearly visit reminds me that anywhere I see in myself and in the world death and despair, I'm also seeing a seedbed for new life. This year, also, as I entertain these house guests, we're in the midst of another visit, the visit of COVID-19. And in this visit, we are seeing around us death, quite literally. We're seeing the death of humans close in and far away in large, large numbers. Tragic deaths, tragic circumstances, heart-rending situations that are before our face on a daily basis, even hourly, minute by minute. We're seeing death in the disparate impacts of this disease, which shows us how broken and dying the places of dying in our social fabric, the ways in which some humans have so much more than other humans. It shows us the death dealing that comes from our greed as humans, our dependence on certain kinds of economies and social arrangements as sacred arrangements and economies that keep some people in desperate situations, even without a global pandemic. At the same time, through the lens of Easter and through the lens of Ramadan, we can notice that there's also new life beckoning. That in the midst of the death that we see a consciousness and awareness of interconnectedness that we have taken for granted before. We also see an awareness of interconnectedness that is a new kind of awareness, that this virus makes us one. Our closest and dearest people can spread the virus to us, as well as strangers. And that gives us a different perspective on how much we are intertwined, whether we like it or not. We also see outpourings of generosity and sacrifice in the midst of this pandemic. The frontline workers who risk their lives and the lives of their families to take care of those and do service to those who are ill. We also see new life in places where the planet seems to be rebounding because of the slowing down of human activity. We get to see the impact we humans have on the rest of our relations in the natural world. We get to see, as we practice fasting and feasting and study, that we get to see, first of all, what we really desire in fasting, our deep desire for the health and well-being of all, our deep desire for a connection with God. In feasting, we get to realize that we can't take for granted our ability to feast, and that the world will be the place that we are called to make it when there are no hungry people on this planet. We get to see so clearly this year also the homework that we have yet to do. And we have an opportunity in this pandemic, in the change of rhythm in our lives, to do some homework, to do that deep connection with the Holy One, to take in deeply the revelation of God to us, each and every one of us, about what our homework is, what our job is. We get to revel in being alive in this day with the understanding that we were called to this day. We were called to be who we are where we are. We were called to this moment to bring who we are to our connections with the rest of the world and create in this time together a vision for the new world that we want to see. I'll stop here. I thank you for listening. I thank you for your attention. And I ask that we take a moment of silence to absorb whatever message is coming to us in this moment from the Holy One. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much for the beautiful reminder that there's just one God for all of us and that it's in every single one of us. While you were speaking, it made me think of an old song that I haven't thought of for a long time, but I'd like to do it this morning. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. It's in every one of us. I just remembered, it's like I've been sleeping for years. I'm not awake as I can be, but my seeing's better. I can see through the tears. I've been realizing that I bought this ticket and I'm watching only half of the show. But there's a scenery and lights and a cast of thousands who all know what I know, and it's good that it's so. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. It's in every one of us, by and by.
Wow, thank you, Becca. morning, everyone. My name is Ken Patterson, and I am your board host today. I want to invite everyone to join me in supporting Unity of Bellevue through our giving of our financial gifts. In our online format, we don't get to pass the bags back and forth hand to hand, but we do have several ways you can give. You can donate on our website. You can text to give to the number on the screen, or you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can simply mail a check. I know Monica loves receiving those in the mail. We do engage in giving here at Unity of Bellevue as part of our spiritual practice, and we give as a declaration of our faith that we are abundantly provided for by the universal presence that we do call God. We joyfully give to our center in particular because it is a source of our spiritual good, and it inspires us because we are waking up. We are channels through which God blesses, and we are channels through which God, the good, flows. And in this consciousness, I'd like to invite everyone to share in the offering affirmation together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I am. And so it is. Amen.
Hi, everyone. I am Monica McDowell-Elvig. I'm your center administrator. And I think Marla has a prayer coming, but I don't see her on the screen. Is she?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to do a prayer at the very end. So why don't we go ahead with announcements right now? Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Monica.
So we welcome all of you here. We are so glad to see you both on Zoom and on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We open our hearts to you. We can feel you. And we are sending out much love and peace and joy to you in whatever circumstances you are finding yourselves in. We love you.
That's right.
Our book of the month, Broken Open, is available for purchase. There are a few copies left. Several of you have bought them. I appreciate that since I bought them before the quarantine. And if you would like one, just go to the website under events and you can order that through the link and I will ship that to you. I'd be happy to do that. If you have any prayer requests, our prayer chaplains are praying for you and with you. You can go to the website and fill out the prayer request form on the website, or you can email info@unityofbellevue.org and the prayer requests will go to all of our prayer chaplains. Join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for our Wednesday Community Connect. We informally check in with Reverend Marla and each other during this time and see how we can apply powerful spiritual principles. Use this time, as Dr. Ann so eloquently spoke of, how we can use this time to really use it as a springboard for our transformation. We have 2 classes starting this week. The first one is Principles of Financial Freedom with Reverend Marla. We've got a great group forming. It's a powerful class on how you can use money as a catalyst for healing into your original wholeness and prosperity. And that's an excellent time as we rethink how we do money during this time as a society, as a collective consciousness. And that starts this Wednesday at 6:30. You can register through the link on the newsletter or through the link on the website. You go to the website, the events menu, and you click on classes and workshops. You'll find more information and the registration link. There is a spontaneous class that has formed, an online book study with Reverend Dick Everts, and that will be a Zoom meeting as well. It's on the book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. And so if you would like to join that, that will start this Thursday, 7:30 to 9, and that will be weekly through into July. They'll go through an introduction and a chapter each week. That's a drop-in class. You'll find the link on our launch page, just like you would find it for Zoom for our Sunday morning or Wednesday meetings. You'll find it on the same page. And you can drop in for that book discussion, and that will be by love offering. Unity Life meets this Tuesday at 6:30. That is Practical Spirituality for Young Adults. That will also be a Zoom meeting, and you will find that on the launch page as well. And Amy Anna and Reverend Marla have an exciting announcement.
Beautiful. I'm going to start. I want to let our community know that in September, Unity of Bellevue is hosting the Pacific Northwest Unity Regional organization. We are hosting the regional conference at Unity of Bellevue Monday, September 21st through September 25th. At our center. I am super excited about this. We get to welcome our colleagues and community members from Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Montana, Idaho, and I think that's it. But they're coming from all over. This is a super exciting opportunity for our community to support the expansion of our teaching and the awakening of the planet by hosting people engaged in a topic called Engage. We are really going to be exploring how to engage our communities in making a difference in the world. And so that's our theme. Reverend Mindy Odlin, who's the author of Spirit Groups, is one of our keynote speakers. We have a couple of other beautiful, great speakers who will be joining us. I think you're all familiar with Dr. Edward Donaldson as one of our speakers. Mitch Hunter is going to be speaking on trans inclusion. So we have a lot of really exciting speakers and events lined up for this conference, and Unity of Bellevue is hosting this amazing event. And so Amy Anna Lancey is our kind of our local coordinator for this regional event, and she has an invitation for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy Anna to share a little bit about what's going on from her perspective. And let me get you unmuted, Amy Anna.
Oh, lovely.
There she is.
All right, you should be good.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. Well, first I'm going to include in the chat the conference website that Marla discussed. There's more information there if you would like to go in more depth, as well as sign up for the conference. We are so very excited to announce this conference. I am here to make a call out for volunteers. Join me in supporting this amazing conference and making this center a welcoming place for all those who attend. There are opportunities for admin support, room setup, food prep and service, all kinds of ways you can make Unity of Bellevue the best host for the Northwest Regional Conference ever. I am posting a link underneath the one I just posted for a volunteer form. Fill it out now, and I will get back to you as soon as possible about what you can do to help. Let's make this fun and so amazing, and let's show all the people of the Pacific Northwest just how amazing of an incredible community that we have here at Unity of Bellevue. I will also be happy to answer any questions. I will include my email in the link if you have in the Zoom chat if you have any questions and aren't quite ready to fill out the volunteer sheet. But I highly recommend you do, because we are going to have a fabulous time helping run this conference. So that kind of ends my speech, and I really look forward to everyone being there. And it's just, I can tell already right now, having worked on planning this for a while, it's going to be quite a fun experience for the volunteers as well as the attendees.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amy Anna. Let me add two more things. One is we are very sure but that by this third week in September, it will be safe for all of us to come together in community. Just know that we're also open to whatever it is that Spirit has for us. So we're going on the assumption that there is a conference happening at Unity in September, and I invite you to join me in consciousness, knowing that truth, that indeed it's going to be possible for us to simply allow this beautiful, perfect conference to unfold as planned. I also want to let you know that the music director for the conference is Becca Palm.
Woo!
So we're super excited about that too. You will have an opportunity to hear lots of Unity musicians and Unity related musicians, as well as a concert on the Wednesday night of the conference week. Becca and the music team are planning a really beautiful concert to which everyone is invited. So that's what we have on the conference. We're moving boldly ahead, and I invite you to join us. It's a ton of fun planning to welcome company from all over the Pacific Northwest. And I'm releasing things back to you, Monica.
Thank you. Our sacred service continues for the month of April. We are collecting items for youth and family to raise money when we can bring all of those used items to Value Village in exchange for some dollars. So thank you for continuing to hold those items while our building isn't quite open yet, but when it is, we'll be happy to collect those items from you. So thank you very much for your mindfulness around that. To stay current on all of our events, go to our website, and at the bottom of every page is a sign-up form for our weekly newsletter. If you don't get it, that's how you can stay up on all of the events and all of the links and connections to everything that we're doing online. And on our website is unityofbellevue.org. Thank you very much. Have a blessed week.
Thank you, Monica. As we prepare to close, I want to remind you that Unity Kids is at 11:40, so you can just stay online, hang out for that. So let's turn within and take the sacred breath together. We recognize our oneness, the infinite power and presence and love of God right where we are, and we open our hearts to the awakening, to the awareness of the greater presence right where we are. And we just simply scrub away the rust. We allow ourselves to be open to a new beginning this week and every week. I give thanks for the opportunity to come together in spiritual community. I give thanks for Dr. Ann Holmes Redding and her powerful message of love. I give thanks that we are richly blessed as community, and that we are richly blessed, each one of us, in the community we share and in our anchoring in the truth of spirit right where we are. And so I close this holy and sacred time with a grateful heart, and I invite everyone in this virtual room with me to join me in the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Thanks, everybody. Stick around for Unity Kids. Love you lots. See you Wednesday at 1. Bye-bye.